Nerevar, come. Gaze upon the factions that you can join in the Elder Scrolls Oblivion Remastered. With the re-release of the Mongrel Dogs of the Empire game, I have decided in my divine wisdom to rank some playable factions, Nerevar. Without further delay, let's begin. Let us begin with the Blades, or the protectors of Sir Patrick the Mongrel Dog Emperor himself. These samurai-looking mongrel dogs of the Empire were the reason the Heart and I were destroyed, but they could not protect the Emperor from the mythic Dawn Ouchie. At least in the remastered, the Ouchie was to the neck. Boris just stood there watching as the mythic Dawn Enwas attacked the Emperor. It's like watching your wife and another Enwa. Never mind, Nerevar. Overall, it's an incompetent faction, but not as bad as it was in Skyrim. Also, I really dislike Joffrey. What a fool do you have to be to store the Amulet of Kings, the only thing that can light the dragon fires and prevent the barrier between Oblivion and Mundus falling apart in a wooden chest? A wooden chest! Nerevar. D tier. The Thieves Guild has a very eventful quest line, but the amount of sneaking around you have to do gets on my nerves. Quite a bit of time is spent on trying to throw off the mongrel dog law enforcement off your back. Eventually, you steal an Elder Scroll from a bunch of blind monks, and then get the Cowl of Nocturnal as a reward. The original Grey Fox becomes the Count of Anvil again. When you put that cowl on, your bounty is only 500 gold, and you can't pay it. Generally, the quest lines are complex and interesting for your usual Thieves Guild quests that you would find in Skyrim. C tier, Nerevar. Knights of the Thorn is a faction that is joined for rescuing the Count of Cheydinhall's cowardly son, Farmer. Oh, sorry, Farwill Indaris. I do not care if he is a Dunmer. He dishonors the 6th house and the tribe unmourned. There is nothing to discuss here, F tier, one mission faction. Knights of the White Stallion are also in the same category. You help that orc Enwa Mazoga twice by defeating a bunch of bandits for the Count of Leowin, and she undeservedly becomes Sir Mazoga. Should have just chosen body type 2 or body type 3 in the character selector screen. F tier. Order of the Virtuous Blood is basically Dawnguard Light. They haunt vampires and pay good coin for vampire dust. D tier. Just because it makes some good gold. Nerevar, if you are enjoying this sermon, please raise your thumb, subscribe to my sermon, and write your thoughts on the parchment down below. Ah, the 9 divines. Why would you worship the false gods when you can worship me, Dagoth Ur? F tier, Nerevar, don't dispute this. The Mages Guild puts you through the most intense anti-necromancer campaign in the Elder Scrolls history. First, you go through the quests of each guild headquarters in different cities, which are interesting in their own right, especially when you help that one senile Enwa get her memories back or something. You get your recommendations from each one and get into Arcane University, which is in much better shape than the College of Winterhold Nerevar. However, I always found these institutions lacking outside of Morrowind. Also, necromancers are a staple of the Elder Scrolls series, but the return of the Worm King and the showdown with him was quite an exciting prospect. Generally, this quest line will give you a run for its money, Marco. What do you mean my pun is not funny, Nerevar? I am a god. How can you say a god is not funny? In the remastered, at least Manimarco is somewhat intimidating. B tier in the remastered, but in the original it is a C tier questline. The Court of Madness serves that crazy false god Sheogorath as he attempts to halt the Grey March from consuming all of Shivering Isles. Turns out, he is actually Jigalag, the false god of order, who doesn't exactly make an appearance later in Skyrim, other than his sword. Anyhow, the hero of Kvatch does a bunch of fetch quests for Sheogorath, but there are some wild adventures here and there with driving adventurers mad, or giving that Bosmer Enwa of Mania a dose of green moat. There are also shadows between the armies of Sheogorath and the Knights of Order, which are also quite interesting. One thing that Haskell and I share is that this is all giving me a big headache. Anyhow, the hero of Kvatch Mantle's Sheogorath, the End, A-tier faction. There's also Knights of the Nine faction, full of stupid puzzles and fetch quests when it comes to searching for the relics. Sometimes it requires making some sacrifices for some Enwas and taking on curses. Very unnecessary, Nerevar. The only exciting part of the quest is facing down against Umaril and putting an end to his reign. He looks better in the remastered, but is still a false god, B-tier. But the new polished armor of that Enwa Pelinal Whitestrake, the Divine Crusader, looks quite shiny in the remastered version. The Fighters Guild has your usual fantasy RPG quests, however. As time progresses, they become a lot more interesting. You get to make shish kebabs from rats and mountain lions in the basement, and you also get to become Goblin Slayer once, arguably twice, but those were not really goblins. Overall, it is not the best quest line out there, but it definitely does provide an entertaining experience. You get to come to different locations through fire and war. I personally enjoyed the intrigue with the Blackwood Company. Speaking of the Blackwood Company, you work for them by exterminating those goblins the second time around. Trust me, Nerevar, they are definitely goblins, and not Enwas whose lives don't matter. Generally, the Fighters Guild is a D-tier faction. The Dark Brotherhood is a group of assassin Enwas that deviated from the Morag Tong and started to worship the Night Mother, Sithis, the Void, and other Enwa stuff that does not make a lick of sense to me. They are as culty as mythic Dawn. However, Nerevar, this is probably one of the most engaging quest lines in the Elder Scrolls series history. It is multi-layered with captivating, quirky characters. It was Assassin's Creed, before Assassin's Creed was even a game. Now with the remastered, it also looks like Assassin's Creed. The contracts and the bonuses are unique, and you are encouraged to get the bonuses. Also, they dislike the Mongrel Dogs of the Empire. The way they handled Adamas Philida was masterful. The whodunit mission was a whole storyline within itself. Oh, and the betrayal of the Dark Brotherhood, Nerevar. That was just the icing on the cake. S-tier faction, even though I find them to be heretics. The arena is also one of the more unique factions. In fact, nothing like this exists in other Elder Scrolls games. It is an actual arena where you can participate in fights against the Yellow Team. Your mission is to absolutely decimate the Yellow Team in order to honor the Sixth House and the tribe unmourned. You also get to take part in a telenovela, Nerevar. You get to find out the origins of the Grey Prince, and it is one of the better quest lines of the game, that Orkenwa will lose all his will to live after that. You also get to fight the 3 Argonian farm tools in high definition since the Oblivion Remaster has come out, a tier. Thank you for watching and honoring the Sixth House and the tribe unmourned. Please raise your thumbs, subscribe to my sermons, and write on the parchment down below. Let me know if you want me to break down unplayable factions, Nerevar.